Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. It is Friday. It's Untethered Live, and I'm your host, Jake Johnson. How are you tonight? How's the world treating you? How's your week been? Did you get everything you set out to accomplish accomplished? Did you earn anything? Did you build anything? Did you make anything happen? If so, let me know what it's all about. I'm here like Miss Piggy with a prom date. Got a little frog in my throat. Other than that, I'm fantastic. Can't beat it. How are you doing? I got a nice hot cup of coffee. I'm ready to rock and roll. It's skitzing out on the camera, but that's okay. I'm not going to fight it. Amanda says, hi, Untethered Live family. Good to see y'all. Happy Friday. I hope everyone had a good week. Hi, Jake. How are you tonight? As previously described. Patty Donahue's here. She says, hello, Miss Amanda and Jake. Hello, Patty. How are you? Nice to see you. Amanda says hi, and here's your gold star for being first in chat. Congratulations. Amanda says, hi, Patty. Wavy hands and smiley faces, and happy Memorial Day. Happy Memorial Day weekend. That word is an oxymoron. Memorial Day weekend. A weekend is more than one day. How can it be Memorial Day weekend? Patty says, ditto, America, peace. Right on. Amanda says, America, America. Fab Daddy's here. What's up, Fab? Nice to see you, buddy. He says, it's Friday, and something said to join this chat. Right on. Something said to join this chat? Something as in an ethereal voice in the back of your head? A mysterious feeling in the pit of your gut? A reminder that says, hey, join this chat? What was it? I am curious. Amanda says, hey, Fab. Fab says, nice crowns. Thank you. Thank you very much. I don't know what they're for, but you're welcome to have one. All you got to do is chat a lot. Linda Davis is here. She says, hi, all in chat tonight. Hi, Linda. How are you, sweetie? I hope you're happy and doing well. I may or may not be able to go through the length of this show. My voice is acting like it does not want to continue, but I do. And I'm the boss of me, so here we go. We'll see. We'll see who wins. Amanda says, hi, Linda Hun. Fab Daddy says, something said, don't miss this conversation. A nagging behind the ears. Nice. I like it. Well, maybe that's good. Maybe that's the Lord saying, hey, come on over here and listen to this chat. Maybe it's, I don't know. Could be anything. Could be aliens. Could be me subliminally interacting with your mind like a real hypnotist does. Look into my voice. Listen to my eyes. Watch the screen before you as I attempt to mesmerize. You'll believe what I say and you'll like it too. Because if you don't, how about that? Fab Daddy says it's kind of itchy. Scratch it, scratch it, scratch it. Scratch my bake, Jake. Scratch your bake, Jake. I hear you. Scratch my back, Jake. Push your back up against the screen. I got you. Yes, this is a 3D interactive show tonight. Amanda says, you must have the blue lights on. You're blue. I'm purple. Thank you very much. It's a red shirt, so why you're seeing blue. It's purple. Linda says, I'm heading to New Jersey tomorrow with my boys for a wedding. of one of my Jersey boys that grew up with my kids. That's fantastic. I love weddings. April Rain's here. She says, what's up, everybody? Good to see you. Much love. Hearts and smiley faces with hearty eyes. Hello, April. Welcome back. Come on in. Take your shoes off. It's going to be a great show. Amanda says, nice, Linda. Have fun. Fab Daddy says, I worry for my hurricane season. I worry for you this hurricane season. They came out with a list of names. Well, it's about time for us to get hit again. It's been a while. North Carolina and Florida are notoriously damage-prone areas when it comes to hurricanes. For some reason, I don't know. Amanda says, hey, April. And April says, hi, Linda and Fab Daddy, Amanda and Jake. What's up? Me. I do have a nice hot cup of coffee here. Don't you want to have a cup of coffee with me and talk about the world? If so, go to the kitchen and pour up your nice hot cup of coffee and kick back and let's talk about it. If you find yourself in the unforgivable position of not having a coffee cup at your disposal, I can fix that. Look down in the description below. You can get the first one. I recommend it because it has my face on it. But there's new options down there too, including, but not limited to, stainless steel tumblers, the big ones and the little ones. They both have locking lids, Untethered Live Bible Study logo on the front, all my platforms on the back. They look great on a coffee table. They hold your coffee hot for hours, and you might want to get one while supplies last because those things go fast. Pardon me. Also, like, subscribe, share, support, join, and super chats are available in the chat box. And one other thing, if you would like to have a place to hang out, a place outside of the YouTuberverse, a place where you can get to know one another and share pictures, videos, texts, and chats, and, you know, not have that oppressive overhang of the YouTube overlords or me misreading and misunderstanding and misinterpreting everything you write. You can do that over at facebook.com/UntetheredLive family. The link is in the chat, and I appreciate you showing up over there. Also, if you want to hit that Cash App, $ jakejohnsonband. I appreciate you very much. Now back to the show. All right. Let's see. Fab Daddy says it's supposed to be active this year. Hurricanes? Yeah. The weather's been kind of up in the heat and down in the cold at the beginning of the year. Or the beginning of the summer, rather. It was cold a little longer than it normally is. So, yeah, the weather's going to be up this year. We also have a lot of pollen. So, spring is in the air and it's getting down. So, I would expect a lot of hurricanes come about October. Fab Daddy says, April. Linda Davis says, it's a Lord of the Rings theme party. After the ceremony, it should be fun. What are you wearing to a Lord of the Rings theme party? Are you going to wear a white robe, a silk robe, and put a band around your head and put some ears on and be a elven princess? Or are you going to dress up as a dragon? Or Frodo? You going to grow your hair out on your knuckles and on your toes? What's it going to be like? I will get it together in a minute. Hang on. Fab Daddy says, I think climate change is impacted by humans. Do you? I do not. I think humans that think they can impact the climate are a little narcissistic, who think they have way more power than they actually do. I think climate has been changing for eons since the beginning of climates. And I think the more important question would be, what do you think would happen if climate just stopped changing? Have you ever asked that question? Have you ever thought about it? What would happen if we did not have any kind of climate change? Now, once you come to that conclusion, you jump, around the mental gymnastics it takes to get outside of your left-wing ideology and see reality for what it actually is and go through the paces of what weather is. And then you ask yourself, well, what happens if the climate does begin to change as it does cyclically throughout all of time? Occasionally it gets hot, and occasionally it gets cold, and occasionally it gets wet, and occasionally it gets dry. It's just the way that the planet works. What do you do in that situation? Because it will happen. Move. That's what you do. That's what we did before when it happened, and that's what we'll do again. We'll move, because it's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to wake up tomorrow in Florida, be underwater. It's not going to happen. When the water's up to your ankles, move. It's very simple. All this fear-mongering on TV about climate change is just that. People trying to raise money off of your fear, and you're playing into it. Don't you get tired of being a dupe? And if so, why won't you put a stop to that? And if not, why won't you allow me to tempt you out of your money? Because I'm much more entertaining than the guy on the news that's fearing you to death with climate change. Give me some money, and I'll give you information that'll make you feel good. How about that? I work just as hard as they do, only I'm not peddling fear. Sorry, the roof of my mouth itches. Somebody must be trying to put some cocaine in $1 or something. I don't know how that works. Oh, climate change is impacted by humans. It is not. No, if all humans disappeared off the face of the planet tomorrow, climate would be exactly as it was, exactly as it always has been, and exactly as it always will be, and it'll keep right on going whether we're here or not. We cannot affect the world in that fashion. It is way bigger than we are. Amanda says, oh, wow, Linda, youngins. I think it would be great to go to a theme party. I always love dressing up and acting a part. April says, getting ready right now to go to dinner. I'm here listening. Hi. We had pizza for dinner. What are you guys having for dinner? None of us felt very good today, so I went and got us some pizza after work. Like a good husband should do, deserving of a back rub or something. Linda Davis says, hi, sweet April, heart. And Amanda says, no, climate change is a normal occurrence. Shaking my head. Right on. It is normal. Don't worry. Look outside. There's birds chirping and dirt on the ground and peace in the air. Just walk away from your TV for a little while and go outside, and you'll see that everything is beautiful. Fab Daddy. Everything is beautiful in its own way. April says, Linda, thanks. You're beautiful. Heart, heart. And Amanda says, we have very little to do with the climate. Very little. I mean, it measures, sure. We build cars and burn things and make chemicals and such. Or put chemicals together. Everything we make came from this earth. You should understand that up front. And there's nothing we've ever made that did not come from this earth. It was here before. We just put it into a form, right? So think about that for a minute. I don't know why the roof of my mouth is itching. It's weird. April says, ugh, I pray it's not bad this year. Me too. The weather, that is. And me too, but if it is, we'll adjust. Fab Daddy says, Amanda, your hairspray from the 80s caused Hurricane Katrina. No, it did not. You know what caused Hurricane Katrina? Stay with me now. The weather. You ever notice that they don't talk about the ozone layer anymore? You're old enough to remember that, don't you? It was going to be acid rain in 10 years. Remember acid rain? Have you ever seen acid rain? No, you have not. You ever seen quicksand? No, you have not. They lie to you. Get used to it. We live in a facade. It's bullshit. Everything is bullshit. It's all covered with a thick layer, smoothed out, just thick enough that you can see through it. Bullshit. Debbie, hey, darling, how are you? She says, the only climate change there is is the different weather patterns. Right. And the climate does change. It changes every year. And it goes back and forth. We live on a planet that is wobbling. It's called a precessional wobble. You know what I'm talking about? That means that sometimes we're further away from the sun and sometimes we're closer to it as we go around. And that affects the weather. Your car doesn't. I'm sorry. It will make smog. That's about it. And in that, yes, we affect climate change. Will it do anything? No. Ever? No. Well, what about smog? Yeah, there'll be smog. You'll have to go like this when you look through a city. That's it. Amanda says, hi, Debbie, and exactly 100%. How are you, Debbie? How's the world treating you, honey? Hope you're doing well. I'm barely hanging on. Every sip of the coffee keeps me another word that I can say. Without it, my voice goes dry, and I stop being able to talk. Amanda says, I could say something, Fab, but I will be nice. Don't say anything if you can't be nice. Because everybody's entitled to think. The point of this show is to give them other things to think about. And then maybe, just maybe, you might put two and two together and see the world in a different way than you did this morning. That's the idea. Not trying to force my ideas on you, not trying to convert you, not trying to convince you. I'm not trying to sell you anything, except me. I am trying to sell you me, but I'm upfront about that. That being said, I want you to think more. It's good for you. It makes your brain feel good. It's like a workout, but for your brain. DJ John, what's up, my brother? How you doing? How you feeling today? He says, hello, everyone. Sorry I'm late. Taking a dog for a walk. Well, you're walking. That's a good sign. God bless you, sir. I hope you're doing well today. And pet that puppy for us. Amanda says, hey, DJ, how you doing? Linda says, kind of like you said. I'll post some pictures after. Nice. I can't wait to see. Amanda says, I can't wait to see them, Linda. Yeah, and if you wish, we'll put them in the community poster. You can. Share them with everybody. Let us see what a sexy elf you can be. Linda Davis says, hi, Debbie and John. April says, we'd freeze or burn. We would? If what? Oh, if the climate stopped? Yeah. Yeah, it would get very hot or very cold very quickly. See, that's why they don't want you really looking into it. That's why if you start reading, they'll get on to you about that. They'll say, don't read. Don't do your own research. Follow the science. Listen to the experts. Because they don't want you to understand that if we just stopped, only one thing would be going on. Whatever temperature it is, more of that. That's it. The moving of the planet keeps the temperature regulated to a degree. We call them seasons. It's a little bit long-winded, but if you look at it as a pattern, that's what it's doing. It's regulating the temperature from hot to cold to keep us in that Goldilocks zone, smooth, warm, tropical temperatures across the equator, and then everything a gradient upwards and downwards. That's how our planet continues to function. That's what causes the jet stream. That's what causes the motion of the ocean, baby. That and the moon keeping a little gentle tug on us as we go around. The moon is a cosmic reach around, is what I'm saying. Little tugger. Yes, the solar system is very sexual. You just have to know how to look at it. Fab Daddy says, I believe scientists that measured our carbon in our atmosphere. We are past ice age conditions. Well, Fab Daddy, first of all, I would like to ask you, what is an ice age condition? Because you don't know. You heard somebody say something that sounded scientific. Did you know that I'm a scientist? Did you know that? I mean, accredited. I'm an actual scientist. So you can believe me when I tell you that you don't know what ice age conditions are. You know what I'm saying? You don't even know what caused the ice age. or if there ever was one. You know Ice Age is a theory, right? Don't believe me? Look it up. Listen to the science. It's a good theory. We're almost 100% reasonably sure, but not 100. Not 100. April says, right. Amanda says, wow, Fab, you're more delusional than I thought. It's not delusional. He was tricked into thinking what he thinks, as were most people that think that way. And that's why I love Fab Daddy, and that's why it's not wrong for him to think that way and ask questions. It's my job to answer those questions when he asks them so that he can hear a legitimate answer for the questions that CNN tells him to think in. Because they don't ever answer you. They make you question, but they don't ever give you a satisfying answer. I will. For the last 50 years, I witnessed the change. Did you? What did you witness, Fab Daddy? Because if I remember correctly, you're in that 50-year bracket, which means 50 years ago, you were barely here and certainly don't remember any of it. But what did you witness? And what do you have to compare it to versus the last 50 years before that? You don't. Because the world didn't start when you were born, and it's not going to end when you die. There's a lot on either side of you. A lot. A lot. And it goes up and down. It always has, it always will. If you measured or witnessed some small portion of it, that's all you did. You're in the bell curve at some point. But it's a bell curve, which means it'll go the other way at some point. Think about what you're saying. You witnessed what? The change? Oh, how ominous. What changed? I was young once too, in the same 50-year bracket. And I remember the sun came up, the sun went down, the sun came up, the sun went down, the sun came up, the sun went down. It rained, it snowed, it rained, it snowed, it snowed, it rained, it rained, it rained, it rained, it rained. A couple of hurricanes here and there, about once every 5 years, a big one. What are we talking about? Was it a desert when you were a child and now it's all lush? And was Florida bigger when you were a child? You'd think if it was sinking, you'd see some of it going under, right? April says, hi, Debbie and John. Good to see you. Debbie says, without carbon, we would live in a desert wasteland. Yes, because let me tell you a little something about carbon they don't tell you. And you should watch Hyperbole, episode 6, I think it is, or 5. It's in there somewhere. Go check it out. I will explain it to you, but I'll give you the cliff notes right now. We produce carbon dioxide. Plants eat carbon dioxide, and they expel carbon monoxide, which mixed with the other gases in our atmosphere produces, you guessed it, oxygen that we breathe. It's a symbiotic relationship. We make plant food, plants make people food. Guess what plants do when there's a lot of carbon dioxide in the air? They flourish because they've got a lot to eat. You see? Carbon dioxide, or CO2, mixed with photosynthesis and sugar and water is a firehouse of growth for plant life. That's what makes them flourish. As long as plants are growing, you have no fear, nothing to fear. But what if the bumblebees die off? What if the bees die? Didn't you hear about the bee virus? Yeah, turns out that's a hoax. Bees are not dying at an alarming rate. There's still very much bees in the world. They're only dying at an alarming rate in a couple of local locations where they raise bees on purpose. That's not in the wild. In the wild, they're fine. In captivity, they got a problem because they don't know how to keep bees because they don't speak bee. But Debbie's absolutely right. Without carbon dioxide, we would live in a wasteland. Now, everything on this planet is made out of carbon. I don't know if you know that or not. Everything, except for silica. and that's made out of something else. Silica. April says, LOL Amanda. Patty says, hi, DJ John. How is the UK? Nice. How's the weather in the UK? Are you guys climate changing to death yet? Amanda says, what changed, Fab? The normal things like temperature and rain? April says, hi, Patty. Love, good to see you. And hit that like button, everybody. Yes, there are 10 people in chat and only 6 likes have been hit. That means 4 of you do not like me very much. Please hit the like button. Thank you, April. Patty says, hi, Miss April. Fab Daddy says, Industrial Revolution. Oh, no, not the Industrial Revolution. Hang on. My chat jumped. I'll get there. Here we go. The Industrial Revolution increased carbon more than ever before. Yeah. We got way more plants than ever before, too. It's fine. You know that carbon came from the ground, right? It was already here. You know that, right? You do know that, right? You do know that we just used the stuff and reproduced the carbon that was already here. Okay, just checking. Linda Davis says, Debbie, do you have a hot date? Ooh, nice. Do you? Dish, young lady, what's the hot date? April Rain says, yummy, pizza sounds good. I don't know what yet. I don't know what we're having for dinner yet. Oh, yeah. We had Meat Lovers pizza, original, hand-tossed, regular crust. It was delicious. Might be some left. I might get another piece later, if there is any. If not, too bad. Amanda says, yes, Jake, thank you for dinner. You're welcome. I didn't get a kiss on my forehead or anything. Debbie says, I suspect you will get something later for that pizza. I suspect you're probably right. I'm just giving her hell anyway. She don't feel good, and neither do I. We're just kind of both miserating. DJ John says, protein shakes all week. I want real food. Well, easy there, DJ John. Let your body heal a little, and then you can pig out. But first, heal a little. Get back into fighting conditions, and then go fight. I'll personally buy you some chicken nuggets when you've healed, if you wish. April Rain says, that's so sweet. Of course it is. Amanda says, well, Fab lives in California, so it may not be beautiful. Well, you're right. Yeah, Fab, I know you don't know this, but there's a whole country outside of California, and most of it don't think or act or believe or live that way. Go outside and go east for a while. And then after you've been going for a while and you can no longer smell California, stop. Get out of the car and walk around. I think you'll find a different world, like Mars. Like if you stop at a certain point, literally Mars. But other than that, get out of the Midwest. Get up into the mountain area. Go breathe some fresh air, like real fresh air, like from above the, whatever, up in the mountains. And see where the snow comes from. I think you'll be impressed. April says, John, I don't blame you. I don't either. But John's been through hell this week, and this year, actually. And he's doing a real good job, and I'm proud of you for sticking in there and hanging to it, because you're in a bad way, buddy, and we need to get you better. We need to get you where the chicken nuggets fear you again. Amanda says, sending you chicken nuggets, DJ. Fab Daddy says, it's great till it's not like Kansas just recently. Tornadoes, fine 1 minute, devastating the next. Yep, that's wind. Has nothing to do with weather. I'm just kidding. It's a different weather. That's Tornado Alley, what you're talking about. And yes, I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but they have those every year. Just sometimes they don't hit where people are. But sometimes they do. And when they do, it's very devastating because those people have cameras And then they show it all over the world like it never happened before. But it happens all the time. Debbie says, nowhere is beautiful. Nowhere is as beautiful that has human poo on the sidewalks. Nowhere is beautiful that has human poo on the sidewalks. Right on. DJ says, thank you, Amanda. And April says, everything is bullshit in its own way. Yes, it is. Everything. Patty says, oh, wow, DJ John. Yep, I guess you have to watch your diet right now. And also bland foods, because if you had that surgery on your throat, right, that means that everything's got to go through there that you eat, and you don't want to eat anything salty or spicy. That would be bad. Or especially hard, like chicken, fried chicken, that suck. Probably got to drink soup through a straw. Fab Daddy says acid rain was real. No, it wasn't. No, we have stopped a lot of it. No, we haven't. How do you stop rain? With carbon scrubbers. It's documented, really? You think we actually have carbon scrubbers and they actually do anything? Come on, man. We have not stopped acid rain. We never had acid rain. That's a lie. It's a lie that was told worldwide. And it never happened because that's not how rain works. Rain, I don't know if you're aware of this or not, is a collection of condensation from the planet. Water does not go into the atmosphere. So the pollution that is in the water will not go into the atmosphere. It gets hot, it condensates and convexes up in the form of mist or evaporation, and then it collects in the clouds and then turns into water and drops back down on the ground, much like a moonshine still works. That's how you get rain. Occasionally, a tadpole will go up there, but not acid rain. There's never been a time in history where the rain was made of acid. That's a lie. Amanda says, that's called Mother Nature, Fab. It's life. At least we have storm warnings. Our ground don't just open up and swallow whatever it wants without warning. Sometimes it does. In the Bible it did once, but they did have a warning. God told them it was going to happen, and it did. Earthquakes happen too, which is literally the ground opening up and swallowing whatever's there. And sinkholes happen too, which is literally that. But other than that, that's just because of liquefaction, because there's a lot of moisture in the ground, which is the exact opposite of climate change, just so you know. Debbie says, LOL, no hot dates for me, Linda. Oh, she didn't say LOL. I just made that up. See, I am lying to you. DJ John says, sorry, guys. It's me with these protein shakes. That's all right, buddy. That is all right. You enjoy those protein shakes as best as you can. Get them down and get them over with. Fab Daddy says, I know we differ on climate change, but do you really think humans haven't impacted it? I live in the boonies, and people everywhere go, it's trashed. And everywhere people go, it's trashed. Yes, people definitely affect the surface of the earth. They do that with trash, and you are correct. That trash, though, does not alter the weather patterns of the world. The world does that all by itself. That's the thing. They get in your head. They dig in your mind with these little mind worms. They plant little ideas, and then they don't give you any detail to back up what they're saying. They just push it out there, and because they have a personality, you believe them. And then you say things like, climate change is real, before you think about it. And people that have thought about it go, this guy's doing a little left-handed cigarettes over there or something. Listen. Climate change is real. It's very real. And sometimes it's devastating. And it's completely natural. And that's just the way the world works. Amanda says, you will be back right soon, DJ John. Absolutely. Right as rain. Linda Davis says, ugh, Debbie, you deserve a hot date to take to your dinner. Or to take you to dinner. I agree with that. You do deserve a hot date to take you to dinner and wine and dine you and tell you you're beautiful and hold your hand and open the door for you and make you feel special. Because you are special. All of you are. You're beautiful. You're wonderful. You're strong. You're independent. You're smart. Any guy would be an idiot to turn you down. Simple as that. I'm sorry that somebody hasn't seen that yet. Somebody will. Amanda says, that's because you live in California, Fab. We are surrounded by farmers, and it's beautiful here. All over. Right on. Yeah, California is not the best place in the world as far as, real estate. But, I understand where you're coming from. DJ says, how is everyone? Love you all. We're fine, DJ. Fantastic. Fab Daddy says, farmers using Monsanto is trash. Well, talk to the government about that because there's no other option. They made using heirloom seeds illegal. You have to buy Monsanto. That's the only way you can grow food. They made that happen that way. Unfortunately, believe me when I tell you that farmers do not want to use GMO seeds. They don't want to use Monsanto. GMO, HMO, one of the MOs. They don't want to use them. They don't have any other choice. You can't reuse seeds like you're supposed to. Here's the thing you may or may not know. When you grow a plant, it produces seeds. And if you collect them, you can plant them next year. That's illegal. Why is it illegal? Because of money. Because Monsanto does this thing that we outlaw in most other cases, but in the case of Microsoft and Monsanto, monopoly seems to be the status quo of how we do business. And Google, Microsoft, Monsanto, they own the monopoly. So you cannot keep the seeds from your own crop that you planted and replant them next year because it takes out of Monsanto's pocket. And you cannot buy heirloom seeds and plant them for a crop. You can plant them personally, but you cannot plant them for a crop. You have to have a certain number, if not all, Monsanto seeds. I think there's two companies. Monsanto's the big one. Anyway, I agree with you. Monsanto is trash, and they need to stay out of food. That's what's wrong with the world. You see, our DNA is a master class in creation. God created us perfect. This thing that we have called a body has been reproducing and functioning for over 6,000 years, maybe longer than 10. I don't know. But I'll tell you that every generation it works. But inside of these bodies, we have a strand called DNA, which makes up all of this stuff. And it has 4 letters, ATGC, ATGC, ATGC. And depending on how you arrange those letters, depends on what that DNA does. It is a 4-bit, not 2-bit like our computers, 4-bit software code that runs the hardware that we call a body. That's what makes it happen. It unzips, it programs what you are, and then it zips back up, and you become what you are. Monsanto and other places like that have went in there and started flipping switches, turning things on and turning things off. When you turn off one of those switches, the body does not know that that's abnormal, so it leaves it off, which is why you're fat. That's the simple way, but there's the truth of it. And Linda says, Monsanto is evil. I agree. April says, that's common sense. Yes, ma'am. I deal in common sense. I am a common sense purveyor. I trade in common sense. As well as DuPont, Fab, Linda Davis says, DuPont is bad too. They make all the plastics that you cannot get out of your body right now. Ice ages happen For a few reasons, says Fab Daddy, like you've ever seen an ice age. How would you know? I'm just asking for a friend. How do you know what an ice age does and why it does it? And do you think you could accurately predict the next one? If we're going to have a next one? If that has ever happened at all? I think Ice Age is just a name that we call a period of time where there was a lot of ice in the world. It's not an ice age, just things got cold for a while. And there were still places on Earth where it wasn't so cold. You do know that. And there were people there. You do know that. So it's just a lot of ice. It was a heavy winter is what it was. It didn't last for millions of years. That's a lie. I'm sorry. Fab Daddy says they are linked to carbon emissions, not our atmosphere, or in our atmosphere. Really? Ice ages are linked to carbon emissions in our atmosphere. So there was a lot of Fords on the road back in the last ice age. A lot of factories burning coal or whatever. Do you even hear yourself? What is a carbon emission? And how do you make one? Amanda says, most of our farmers use pig shit. They do a lot of that, but we're talking about seeds, genetically modified seeds, not fertilizer. Fab Daddy says, inclination and eclipse of orbit can be two reasons for ice age. Yeah, Google works for me too, but an eclipse is not going to cause an ice age. It won't, I promise. Inclination is referring to the precessional wobble of the planet. It increases towards or away from the sun, causing the weather patterns to change temporarily. Also not going to cause an ice age. Ice ages cannot be caused. It got cold one year. For a few years, it stayed cold. That's it. The ice melted. Back to business as usual. There were people here before and after the Ice Age. If I haven't proven to you by now that the world is not millions and millions of years old, I don't know what to tell you. Go outside and look at the dirt. Know that all rocks and all dirt are the same age. Go look at the world. Go look at how things come and go. Think about your childhood and how drastically things you remember from then changed, how you could see it, how you went to your whole old home and was like, wow, this looks nothing like I remember it. Now work backwards with that thought and figure how long could it have been here. Look at the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s as far as people go, and trends and fashions and the way people think and how much smarter we've gotten since the 80s, how many things we know now that we didn't know then, and work backwards from there. How far back do you think you can go before you hit a wall that you can't go any farther? It's not millions of years. It's only a couple of thousand. Just look at the world. Look at how much things have changed in the last 200 years. And realize that we've been here this whole time. And we didn't just sit on our hands and talk around a fire for 9 million years and then wake up and say, hey, didn't we supposed to do an industrial revolution? We better get on that. It wasn't like that. People have always innovated. People have always looked for a better way. And we found them every time. Work backwards and see how far you can get. Fab Daddy says carbon and oxygen can join in multiple ways up to carbon dioxide 13. Yes, I know. I know all about the periodic table and how things interact with each other. I'm a purveyor in that knowledge. That's one of the reasons I know what I know, because I looked into it. You understand? I'm not just sitting here in front of a camera spewing my nonsense. I'm talking to you about things that I've studied over a period of a long time and have come to some conclusions about the world in which we live It's one of the reasons I think everything's bullshit, because I can see and think. And if you think I have any intellect whatsoever, you've been listening to me for 10 years. If I haven't proven to you by now that I'm good at thinking, I never will be able to, for one. And for two, you haven't been listening. And for three, maybe this guy might be onto something. Maybe. I'm not the only one, though. That would make it weird. There are many scientists that think the same thing I do. Only thing is it's almost illegal to say anything. You damn sure won't get published. You damn sure won't have peer review. You damn sure won't be hired if you espouse anything other than the narrative, which was established in the 1800s. So if it were true, you'd think it would go back further than that, but it don't. It was done as a political move to take over and remove God out of academia. That's the reason for it. And this is the product of it. A lot of atheists who think they know things they don't actually know. And when they're confronted with real critical thought, they can't even function. They don't even know how to respond. Like when I say, how do you know we had an ice age? How do you know what the conditions are to create an ice age? You seem to think you know we're above the conditions for it. So how do you know? Because somebody told me. That's the only answer you have. Or I read it in a book. Well, I have a book too, and mine's older and smarter than the ones you're reading. And it says that don't happen. So, we all appeal to a higher authority, Fab Daddy. Mine is just God, not the teacher. DJ says, Britain was colder in the 70s. 1979 was the coldest ever. Or in recorded history. But that would be weird because we had an ice age at some point. Surely it was colder then, right? Rich S says, hi, gang. I made it. Hello, Rich. How are you, buddy? Chat jumped. I'll get back to you. Oh, I hate it when my chat jumps. $8.58. All right, here we go. Fab Daddy says, but that's science and Einstein's theory and all the minds that tried to figure out things. Science is a crock of greatness, is it now? You do realize that every day they're proving Einstein wrong in his theory of general relativity. He's been wrong a lot, actually, and they're actually coming up with equations that outdo what he did. So very near in the future, once we get over the hump of ideology, there will be new science that says, oh yeah, we had that wrong. Like light speed being a constant. Well, anybody with eyes can tell you light speed is not constant. Light changes its speed depending on the medium it's going through. Don't believe that? Get you a glass of water and stick a pencil in it and look through the glass, and you will see in real time light changing speed by itself. DJ says, boiling hot here, Patty and Jake. It was kind of warm today here too, buddy. Science is a crock of shit is what it is, Fab Daddy. And I don't mean real science. I mean Neil deGrasse Tyson science. Science. Bill the Science Guy science. Crock of shit is what it is. Fab Daddy says, actually, we have deforested 1/4 of all the trees. Really? Really? All right. You want to actually prove that you don't know what you're talking about? Or do you just want to beat me over the head with statistics that aren't true? We can continue as friends. We can continue as friends if I prove you wrong too, right? All right. I want you to get a piece of paper and a pen. This is important. You really should do this. I want you to write down the phrase, we, and underline it. We have deforested 1/4 of all trees, and underline that. We and all trees. Underline those two words. And then put it right in front of you so you can see it. Maybe write over it a couple of times where it's nice and thick and bold so you can really see it. Then I want you to pull up Google Maps and just get a real view of Google Earth. And just look at it. And then every time you look at it, look down at that decimal point that you put on the paper, 1/4, that fraction, 1/4. And then look back at Google Earth. And then look back at 1/4 and look back at Google Earth. And do that a few times, and you tell me if you're seeing 1/4 of all trees not where they're supposed to be. And in fires, and it's worse, says Fab Daddy. Yeah, in California and in Brazil, yeah, it's worse there, for sure. There's a whole country that's not on fire. You know that too, right? There's a few of them, actually. Amanda says there is some left. Yeah, there's a few trees left there, Fab Daddy. Probably 1/4 of them. Climate change I've seen in California wildfires. Yes. Due to the lack of forest maintenance, you have experienced a lot of fires in California. That is your governor's fault. Because there is a way to stop that. You know how I know? Because every other state is not on fire. Yours is, though. You know the East Coast is just as hot as the West Coast, right? And dry. So, we take care of our forests. You do not. Because of a fish or a owl or something. Some Democrat nonsense. You leave all the foliage on the ground and it gets dry. And when that happens, it becomes rot for fires. And then fires happen. And here's the thing. If you take a bunch of money away from the fire department and then hire a bunch of lesbians that can't pick men up to be firemen, you're going to have problems. I'm sorry. Well, we can't have firemen that could show up and you not want to be rescued because they don't look like you. You want to be represented. I don't know why they have a southern accent. It just sounds dumb. I don't care if he's Mexican, Chinese, or black. If the house is on fire and he can pick me up and move me, please do. Nobody else cares either, except maybe people in California. You have been devastated by wildfires, and it's a tragedy. It should not and could not have happened. It shouldn't have happened, and it could have been avoided, but it wasn't. So you can blame whoever you want to blame. You can blame climate change to get out of blaming the people that are actually responsible. That's fine, too. You could blame the fact that there's no water in the reservoir, even though the water was released to you months and months and months earlier. You can blame the fact that half of the fire trucks don't work and there's no real mechanics there. There's a bunch of women with grease on them that like to dress like mechanics, but there's no actual mechanics fixing the fire trucks. So you can blame that if you want to. You can blame governors that take money from here and put it over there and do things with it that are unspeakable, but not the thing that it was given to them for, like fill up the reservoirs and fix fire trucks, hire people that are competent in their jobs. You could blame them, or you could blame climate change because, yeah, I can continue my lifestyle, and it's climate change's fault. And we can raise some money. Let me hop in my G5 jet and fly to a summit across the world so we can bitch about carbon emissions. Do I make myself clear? Amanda says, OMG Fab, everywhere has wildfires. Yeah, but we usually fix those. Fab Daddy says, Nevada desert ain't far. Ain't far. You're right. Nevada desert is not too far. Climate change. What are you saying? Are you saying that climate change caused the Nevada desert? Would it have anything to do with the fact that they bundled up all the water and piped it over to a place outside of their reach and then charged for it? Could it be because the Los Angeles River, which used to be an actual river, is shut off because of politics? Could it be that? Could it be that there's enough water to make Nevada lush and green, but they can't have access to it? Could it be that? Could it be water rights? That's the problem. I don't know. I'm asking. Debbie says, Fab Daddy, I live in Tornado Alley, and they are not new. They have not called it Tornado Alley for over 100 years for nothing. Right. Fab Daddy says, my weather currently is very pleasant. Nice. And it will be until you get a wildfire or something like that. Or rain. Sorry. I'm just spewing nonsense, though. Don't believe anything I say. I'm an idiot. Fab Daddy says, climate change. Will you hang on to that ideology and you hold it tight? Don't let anybody convince you otherwise. You're doing the right thing by believing the lie. Debbie says, no, Linda. I am content being the old cat lady on the edge of town. Notice I did not say crazy. I don't think you're crazy or old. You might be a cat lady, though. I'm a cat man. I have like 12 cats who all have babies now. So I might have like 30 cats. I don't know. Fab Daddy says, acid rain has to do with pH levels. I know what acid is. I understand. We have never had high pH rain. We've never had rain you couldn't drink. DJ says rain is recycled. It is. In the form of convection and evaporation. Fab Daddy says there's multiple times in history of acid rain. London in the late 1800s. Really? Go look for that. I'm sorry. No acid rain. What caused it, by the way? In the late 1800s. What caused the acid rain in the 1800s? Was it carbon emissions from vehicles and oil refineries? Cows farting, maybe? Amanda says, that's what I was referring to. Earthquakes. Right on. Fab Daddy says, written down saying their marble statues were eroding from rain. Yeah, people have said some weird things over time. Doesn't make it true. Can you find a picture of a marble statue that is eroded from rain? Wouldn't you like to see that? That's like a statement I'd want to see, right? We have eroded marble statues because of acid rain. By the way, acid does not affect marble, but that's beside the point. Marble's pretty hard, and they use muriatic acid to polish marble. And to clean it. But wouldn't you want to see a picture of that? Amanda says, if climate change is changing so much, then why hasn't the world ended like predicted so many times before? Right. Remember Al Gore saying that in 10 years we'd all be underwater? That was 30 years ago. Go watch An Inconvenient Truth. Really. Take off your liberal hat for a minute, Fab Daddy. Close the doors and close the blinds so nobody in your neighborhood will see you. Turn the volume down just loud enough that you can hear it. Turn all the lights off in the house and put a blanket over your head and wrap up real tight. Maybe nobody will know. And just think for yourself for 5 minutes and watch An Inconvenient Truth. And pay close attention to the part where it says this was made 30 years ago. And then listen to what the man says with confidence, with science backing him up. I mean, they've got flow charts and everything. Graphs, even. They have graphs, man. For God's sakes, they have graphs. Science. Real science. He was lying to you to make money. He lives in a very large house that has a carbon footprint that would make your town blush. But the world's going to end in 10 years. Or listen to Greta Thunberg talk about how the world's going to end in 10 years. Or Ocasio-Cortez saying we only have 12 years left of Earth. That was 10 years ago. April says, all hearts and smiley faces. And Fab Daddy says, I don't question the almighty things. The Almighty's timing. I don't question the Almighty's timing. I just try to learn. I blame my environment for need to know. It's all of your fault. Okay. I mean, you got to blame somebody, right? Not you, but everybody else. I got it. DJ John says, I grow peppers by using the seeds inside them and chilies. Yes. And farmers can't do that. Fab Daddy says, we are past Ice Age. It will take hundreds of years before we lower our carbon before an Ice Age can happen. Well, you should have listened to the news in the 70s because they were quite concerned that the world was cooling to an alarming rate in the 70s. That was only 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. I'm old. They had Leonard Nimoy, Spock, saying it on national television that we were entering into an ice age probably in the 70s. When they realized that they couldn't sell that because it was stupid, they changed it to climate change. Or actually, they changed it to global warming. And then when they realized they couldn't sell that because it was stupid, they changed it to climate change because that is nebulous and it could mean either or. Fab Daddy says, once an ice age occurs, like you've seen more than one. Once an ice age occurs, ladies and gentlemen, the temperatures drop from reflection of the whole white snow increases. It increases. The temperature increases from reflecting off of the white snow. That's how snow works, yes. Again, you've never witnessed an ice age, but you're talking like you lived through 2 or 3 of them. DJ says, I am not that old. Ice age yet. Debbie says, Fab Daddy, California burns because their forestry policies suck. Right. Amanda says, it does that now, Fab Daddy. Come on. Right. Snow works that way for sure. And Fab Daddy says, we also differ on time. Yeah, I know you believe what the people have been shoving down your throat, and I believe what I see with my own eyes. I understand. My eyes are especially gifted, though, because I've, spent a great deal of my life educating them. And so when I see things and I understand things and I put the two together, sometimes they don't add up. And I realize that I don't live in a subjective democratic world where 2 + 2 does not equal 4. Although they tried to sell me on that briefly also. I didn't buy that either. And I kept going. And so did everybody else. And then they just died because it was stupid. But they did try. I'm telling you, Fab Daddy, open your damn eyes. Look outside. Look at the world. Ask questions that make sense. Like, where did all that snow come from? Why was it so cold? What could have caused that to happen? What would stop it from happening now? How do you know? You do realize that recorded history is very new, right? Like meteorology as a thing has only been going on since like the 50s. I might not be exactly right on that, but it's relatively new. Amanda says, right, Debbie? And they don't keep the fire hydrants ready. That's another big reason. Fab Daddy says uranium decomposition can be measured. Sure it can. But you have to make some assumptions in order to do so. There are several different ways of measuring time. Carbon, strontium, radium, on and on and on. There's like, I can't remember, there's like 30 different ways. Every single one of them, which I covered in the Hyperbole if you want to go take a look. One of the episodes, I think it's 5, it might be 6 or 4, I can't remember. But one of those videos will tell you that I've done the math. I have looked into every dating method there is, and every single one of them requires an assumption to get it right. Now, scientists will use circular reasoning when discussing it. How did you get that measurement? We dated the carbon in the rocks. Okay? How did you get that measurement? We dated the rocks by the carbon. That's circular reasoning. You understand? They don't have an answer because they pick the number that best suits the narrative. Every dating method that exists requires an assumption. Let's take carbon-14 because that's one everybody knows, but there's other ones too. But in the case of carbon-14, you have to assume that carbon has been at a constant from creation to now. See, the sun shines on the earth and it produces carbon-14. And when you die, you stop absorbing carbon-14. And carbon-14 has a half-life of 5,550 years. So that's a number that we can measure, right? That's a half-life of carbon-14. So when you die, you stop absorbing carbon. And then you can measure the dead thing and find out how much carbon it has, how much carbon-14 it has. And then you can measure that against its half-life and multiply it or divide it or however that works. And then you come up with a number based on the two assumptions, right? If I put a candle in the middle of the room and lit it, and then you walked into the room sometime later and I ask you, how long has that candle been burning? You could answer me, provided that you knew how big the candle was and that you knew how much wax was accumulated around the bottom or how much soot was on the ceiling from it burning. You could answer that question. But if you did not already know how long the candle was before I lit it, you would have to assume that to come up with an accurate answer. You see what I'm saying? So, in order to do carbon-14, you have to assume that there's always been the same amount of carbon. Well, let me tell you, if you fill the planet to the tip of the atmosphere with carbon-14, I mean, not 1 square inch of the planet uncovered, carbon-14 to the top, in 5,550 years, there would be no carbon-14. You understand that? So, has the rate in which carbon-14 is produced on the planet always remained the same? We know there was a flood. We know it did things to the atmosphere. It caused an ice age, for example. Why? Because water shot up into the atmosphere. There was 12 miles of rock pushing down on the water beneath the earth, and when the earth cracked open, it squirted up with the pressure of 12 miles of rock, pushing it up into the atmosphere, and then it came back down at the poles because that's how magnetism works, and that caused hyper cold rain, froze everything instantly all over the planet. That's why you find mammoths with buttercups in their mouths and their legs are broken because ice landed on them while they were eating and that killed them and they froze to death. That's super cold air. That's what caused the ice age. And then we recovered. It probably took a couple of 100 years to melt all that ice. Don't know. Might have happened in a week. I don't know. But I would say that by changing the atmosphere Because, before the flood, people lived to be 900 years old or so. After the flood, they lived to be 100 years old or so. Something changed. You can look at amber and take measurements of the oxygen in the amber, and you can take other readings of ancient things that have been trapped, like in amber, and you can tell that we had a different atmosphere post-flood and pre-flood. So, if the atmosphere changed, isn't it fair to assume the amount of carbon that has come from the sun has also changed? And if that's true, then your measurements are all off, every one of them. The only way to keep the narrative alive is to assume that all things are as they always have been and nothing has ever changed. That's an assumption. That's a wild-ass scientific guess. Do you not see the problem with that? Palladium halos is a good way to measure time because it's in the rocks and it's caused by a phenomenon that is natural and you can measure it and it's accurate. That's a good way to check it out. But it has a flaw. You have to make an assumption for that too. Much older than thousands of years ago, says Fab Daddy. Well, you can't prove that. Neither can science, despite them touting it in every way possible. There's no evidence of it, and yet it's still a theory. Despite the fact that every science book you ever seen, when you open it, the first words are millions of years ago. That's called a mantra. That's how they hypnotize people to believe things. If you tell a lie long enough and hard enough, it becomes the truth. Rich S says, "Hi, gang, I made it." Again, hi, Rich. Fab Daddy says, "You can believe in flood, but not an ice age? Well, I can see where the flood hit the world. And I never said I didn't believe in the ice age. I can see where the big boulders were carried down by glaciers and deposited on the mid-plains, the Midwest plains. I can see water erosion all over the world, such as the Grand Canyon and the salt flats and all of the places out Midwest where the water rushed down from Canada. I can see that with my own eyes. I can see where mountain ranges were pushed up that are equal to the crevice in the ocean. If you take every mountain range and go out into the ocean from that mountain range, you'll find a crevice in the ocean, a big crack, because that's where the water came out. And when it came out with such force it pushed up the mountain ranges. That's why we have them. There were no mountains before the flood. This is geology. It's not magic. I can make that happen in a laboratory. I can do things to the earth that will prove the flood happened. And yes, I believe in the Ice Age. I don't believe it lasted millions of years, and I don't believe it was a natural phenomenon, which is why I don't believe we'll ever have another one. And I don't believe in the flood. I see evidence of the flood. We have fossils. Do you know what makes a fossil? A very particular set of circumstances is required for fossilization. Most things that die disintegrate and are never seen again. The world does not make fossils. But if you cover a dead thing over the moment it dies with sediment-rich mud and cut it off from its oxygen and scavengers and things like that and stop its decay, then it will eventually turn into a fossil because the minerals in that mud will replace the bone, and then you have a fossil. That happens because of the flood. That's why every dinosaur graveyard where they have dinosaurs' bones that they found, they're all in a position like they're trying to breathe. They're all twisted up. They didn't die naturally. They died in a tumbling flood. And they're all in pockets of lots of dinosaurs in one spot because they were all washed together by a flood. That's why you have seashells on the top of Mount Rushmore and every other mountain for that matter. That's why you have whales in the desert out in the Sahara. That's what evidence looks like. Chat jump. Hang on. Amanda says, hi, Rich. And Amanda says, the flood was in the Bible. Yes, and it was recorded. So I have more than one source of evidence that the flood occurred. Fab Daddy says, new thinking about gravity helps link the quantum and Einstein problem. Space is flat with torsion. You have no idea what you're talking about. Those words don't even mean anything. New thinking about gravity? Gravity is a theory. If it isn't, go get me a jar of it. Stick it in a jar, paint it red, let me see it. You can't because it's a theory. Because they don't know why things work the way they do. They just call it gravity. That's called a theory. And quantum, what's quantum mean? Are you talking about quantum physics? Are you talking about string theory or M theory? Because quantum physics is not a real thing. That's just a blanket umbrella statement that covers several different disciplines of mathematics, including physics. And space is flat? Are you hearing yourself? You can see in 3D in space. Can't be flat. DJ John says, Jake, is methane a contribution to global warming? No. Methane is what science calls a fossil fuel. I covered this in the Hyperbole. Go watch it. I think it's episode 5 or 6. Titan is a moon that is around Saturn, and it rains on Titan like it does here, and it has oceans and rivers like it does here. It's the only other planet in the solar system that's built that way. The difference is we use water to do all that here, and it uses methane to do it there. It has methane rivers, methane oceans, and it rains methane. The immediate joke would be, try to light a match. You'd blow the whole planet up. Well, yeah, but the other thing is, how did that methane get there if it's a fossil fuel? Titan is proof that science is full of shit. Fab Daddy says, look at pictures from the 40s, compare with today. I have. Which pictures in particular are you referring to? Your state was on fire. Every state has been on fire at some point. In the 40s, we didn't take care of our forests like we do now. Proof. You just proved my point. You didn't make the statement you thought you just made. You just proved that if you take care of California, you'll stop having fires too. Also, there was the Dust Bowl in the 20s. We don't have that problem anymore either. You know why? Because we figured out how to manage the land. Back then, we were just getting there, and we kicked up a bunch of dust and didn't know how to solve that problem. And it got out of hand, and we had a big dust storm that lasted for a decade. We don't have that problem anymore because we figured out how to manage the land. They still have those in Iraq and Iran and places in big deserts now because they can't manage the land. There's too much of it. We don't have that problem. We're a lot smaller. Amanda says, and was quickly under control and put out. Righto. Fab Daddy says, if your state could have used the flooding to put out your fires, the flood happened 4,000 years ago, 4,500 years ago. I don't know what you're talking about. And we did have fires. And then we started foresting. We started taking care of our forest floor. Donald Trump would say, rake the forest. It's a little more complicated than that, but it's basically the right idea. You got to clean the forest floor. That's how you stop wildfires. And also stop arsons. And Amanda says, we flood here all the time still. Small local floods, yes. I've been flooded in this house twice. One time it was 8 feet deep. DJ John says, in Britain, the councils are cutting down all the trees in town street due to health and safety, it's all gone mad. Yeah, they're cutting down all the trees, huh? Well, if they want to live in a concrete jungle so bad, let them. But when nature comes a-calling, they're not going to know how to handle it, and they'll be the first to die. Fab Daddy says, I don't mind debating states. It's kind of like sports. Everyone has a team. Well, I don't have a team. I don't have any particular affinity for the state I'm in. But I hear you. And your team does not know how to take care of its forests. And if it did, your team would have a lot less fires. Patty says, sure does, Miss Amanda. Floods all the time. Well, it's flooding in North Carolina. It flooded in Dubai a couple of years ago because of cloud seeding. Dubai, that's in the desert. It flooded. I did a Hyperbole about it. Check it out. Tonight seems to be an advertisement for Hyperbole. While I'm advertising, please do hit that like button. Press the subscribe button so you get notifications of when I'm going to be online. Share this video with somebody you love. Hit that like button. It's free. It's effortless. It really does help the channel with the algorithms. Helps us get recommended to other people. Won't you do that, please? Share this video with people you love. Better yet, share it with people you don't love. Bring them into the family, make a part of the fold. Be part of their solutions, not part of their problems. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you're thinking about. Question me, curse me, bless me, challenge me, confront me, conform me. Drink my Kool-Aid. Make your own Kool-Aid. Make some carbon dioxide. And hey, if you dig this channel and you're learning something and you'd like to help me reach more people, if you'd like to help me keep the lights on around here, how about go to paypal.me/jakejohnsonband, or if you're a Cash App user, $JakeJohnsonBand, and support the channel. Or do a super chat. That'll work too. Anything. Buy a t-shirt. Join the channel. Get yourself a J tag. Look good out there. Stand out in the crowd. Let people know you're thinking for yourself. And I do appreciate that. I'll do everything in my power to be worthy of that support. I will even do podcasts when I have zero voice and should not be talking, because I love you. And now, back to you. Rich S says, here is the real stat. From 2000 to 220, the world experienced a net change of negative 101 MHA. That's negative 2.4 in tree cover. Negative 2.4%, not 25%. In one of the episodes of Hyperbole, I covered this very thing about deforestation, and I show you proof and news articles where plants are actually flourishing right now. They're not in decline. It's about CO2, but it covers forestry. Anyway, check it out. Rich S. coming in hot. How you doing, buddy? Fab Daddy says, I just got a new modem for my Wi-Fi, and they said it was faster. We will determine that soon enough. Right on. I hear you. I'm working on it. I'm going to get a place where we can get together and talk face to face. Old World, what's up? He says the climate change narrative is nothing but bullshit. Exactly. Thank you, Old World. Yeah, I've been fighting that for a while now, and I'm probably going to lose monetization on this channel because this is not advertiser-friendly content, but I cannot let bygones be bygones. I have to say the truth, regardless if it costs me or not. So support your local Jake Johnson. He is working hard to bring you the truth as it stands. But you're absolutely right, Old World. The climate change narrative has been and is going to continue to be a large swat of bullshit right in your face, because they use it to fear people into giving them money. I say give me money. At least you'll have fun while you're doing it. I won't browbeat you like Greta Thunberg does and then go get on my jet or my boat and fly or float to the next country to peddle my wares. You'll never see me pretend to get arrested because I'm fighting the man. Amanda says, hi, Old World. Exactly. Patty says, what is the topic tonight? It's whatever you want it to be, honey. I'm barely hanging on with a voice, and apparently it's climate change. That's what we've been talking about anyway. But we can switch. Kevin Cox says, hey, what's up, Kev? Nice to see you, brother. How you doing? Amanda says, hi, Kevin. Fab Daddy says, hey. And Amanda says, climate and acid rain, Patty. And Patty says, the newscaster. Right on. Fab Daddy says, coal burning created the acid rain in the 1800s. That's funny. It never created it any other time, and we still burn coal. Isn't that weird? Huh. But in the 1800s, it was a certain kind of coal. Like they got it out of a certain strata of the earth, and it produced acid rain. How? How did coal burning translate to acid rain? What's in coal that would cause acid rain? Coal's pretty clean. When you burn it, it turns into soot, which puts carbon dioxide into the air, which feeds the plants. And DJ John says, coal maybe in London in the 1800s. Yeah, maybe in one spot, but I'm telling you, no acid rain. April says, that's true. Of course it is. Patty says, I thought Jake was going to hit the WKRP music. Right on. WKRP. I need to do something like that. Put me a little placard on my microphone. WBST or something like that. Or ULBS. Fab Daddy says, smiley faces and monkey faces. Fab Daddy says, I love pie graphs. Well, you'll love the inconvenient truth then. He has a lot of them in that show. It's all lies, but you'll enjoy it. Also, watch Fahrenheit 9/11. That's a good one you can watch. April Rain says, smiley, smiley, smiley. Rich S says, God's planet is designed to change. Ecosystems are different today than they were 3,000 years ago. God designed this living planet and knew exactly what he was doing. It's we that don't know. Agreed. I tend to believe God don't make mistakes, and this world has been taking care of itself for a long time, regardless of how many people's been on it, which has varied over years and years and years. Sometimes there was more, sometimes there were less. But the world keeps on turning, and it knows how it's self-fulfilling. It takes care of itself. It replenishes itself. It repairs itself. It cleans itself. That's why I know we can't affect climate change, because the world would just do something else. The world can do that, you know. Amanda says, exactly, Rich. Yes. And Debbie says, I feel bad for Greta Thunberg. The adults in her life really let her down. They really did. They used that girl, and they let her run wild with her imagination, and then they encouraged her to go out and make her craziness public. And they use her as a bludgeoning tool to hit people over the head with this young girl crying about how we stole her future. While they're making millions and millions of dollars. That girl is not hurting at all, I promise. April says, that's sad. And hi, Rich. It is kind of sad. You shouldn't be allowed to be an activist until you're 18. DJ John says, foolish talk from them clowns. It won't end for hundreds or thousands of years. Rich S says, April Rain, missed ya. It's been a hot minute. April says, yep, it has. I know. How are you, Rich? I made up the I know part. Yes, it has. How are you, Rich? Old World says, it all started with global warming fraud. They changed the language, and now they call it climate change. It is one and the same bullshit. Yes, and before it was global warming, it was global cooling. If you watch my Hyperbole series, I think it's episode 5 or 6 or maybe 4. I can't remember. It's towards the end. I did a thing on CO2, and in that, I showed a news broadcast from the 70s where they were actually trying to sell people on the fact that we were about to enter an ice age. And that was on TV, like on national television. They were trying to sell that we were globally cooling and we needed to give them lots of money for research because we might not be here in 10 years. So it started as global cooling and then global warming. And when they couldn't sell that nonsense, they changed it to climate change. And then they've had other words that they've tried to introduce, such as the Green New Deal and things like that. I can't think of what they are right now, but it has to do with wind and solar power. April says, "Hi, old world. Good to see you." And ugh. Fab Daddy says, "Wait, I am confused. So there was an ice age?" There was a period in time where there was a lot of ice on the earth, yes. I hesitate to call it an age because it was not millions of years of ice. That doesn't even make sense. Sun comes up every 24 hours. April says, "Right, Jake." April says, "Yes, there was an ice age." Fab Daddy says, "How do you know?" "Because I can see." You never lived through one? No, I haven't. But my Bible records it, and it has. So, there's that. And again, I could see, and I know how things work because I've studied things like how ice accumulates and why. April says, "Back way before the earth was flooded." Well, I think it happened after the flood, actually. That's my theory. I postulate the theory, and it is a theory. I'm not saying this is scientifically accurate because I don't know. But the flood caused the ice age because when the water shot up out of the earth, there's 12 miles of rock on top of that water pushing down. As it cracked and the water came up, it went all the way up into the atmosphere, changing the atmosphere as we know it. And because we live in a magnetic world that has poles, when the water came back down, it came back down at the poles, freezing everything instantly for a while near the poles. The equator was still not frozen. Chat jump again. Here we go. It was as back when dinosaurs existed. Again, watch Hyperbole. I covered that too. Dinosaurs existed at the same time we existed, always have, always will. They're dead now, though. We think. What it is, what's up? He says, "You believe in the flood? You read the Bible? What about Noah? What about Noah?" Yes, I believe in that, what it is. Patty says, "I thought those animals with buttercups found in their mouths was found there because they were strewn there during the first flood of Genesis 1-2. Yes. You are correct. They are one and the same event. Rich S says, "AR, I am better than I deserve. Blessed above and beyond." Rich S, that's fantastic. I guess that's for April Rain. Yeah, because she asked how you were. All right, got it. Amy Elizabeth says, "Hi, y'all. Like, shared, and invited some friends." Hi, Amy. How are you, sweetheart? Stream Element says something I don't want to read. Fab Daddy says, "Butterflies taste with their feet." How do I know this? I heard it through the grapevine. How do I know this? Because I've dissected a butterfly. See, there's two kinds of people in the world, Fab Daddy. There's people that hear things and remember them, and there's people that think about things and learn them. There's two different kinds of people. The knowledge is equally valid, but consider the source is all I'm saying. I'm not saying that because you remember things people said to you and you believe them, that you're any less intelligent than me. That's not what I'm saying. There could be an argument for that, but that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there's a difference between secondhand information and firsthand information. Now, as I am a person that puts myself out there in public 5 times a week, every week for the last 10 years, I tend to want to be right. I don't want to say things that are wrong. I don't want to mislead people. I don't want to lie to people. So I spent a great deal of my life learning things that would make me right, because I like being right. I learn by going to the source and discovering what I need to know. Sometimes that comes in the form of reading a book, sure. But then I go and test the theory. I don't just rely on secondhand information. I never have. I don't like that. And you'll also notice there's a lot of topics I stay away from because I don't know anything about it. Right? I don't do things I'm not good at. So therefore, everything I do, I'm good at it. It's kind of a trick, I know, but that's the way that I function. I try to stay in my lane. I try to stay with the things I know. And I can't know everything, so I picked some, and those are the things I studied. Bible, theory, ancient stuff, the world, physics, planetary science, that sort of thing. I'm into all of that. So I know a little bit about it. I'm not telling you nonsense. I'm telling you reality. You can look at it how you want to. You can believe who you want to. But look with your own eyes. That's all I'm asking. Amanda says, hi, Amy. Patty says, buttercups are not going to be found in colder climates. Correct. It got cold very fast is what I'm saying. That's why that's important. That's why I mentioned the buttercups. Because they were frozen. They're in ice. You go find a woolly mammoth right now in Siberia, it's frozen still. Because that part of the world never warmed up. It's cold there. So you go through the permafrost and you find fully intact woolly mammoths, babies, grown-ups. They're all there, fully intact. The only thing wrong with them is their legs are broken and their backs are broken and their tusks are broken, like they were pummeled from above. But then you go looking a little deeper and you find out that they have food in their mouths. They were eating when this happened. That's how you know. The world did not become cold over millions of years. It became cold instantly. Ice Age was instant. Everything froze and it got worse. It was a snowball effect, no pun intended, and it got worse. And then it ran out of steam because there's only so much water up there causing it in the first place. And when that was depleted, then it began to warm up again and water went everywhere. So I believe that after the flood, there was a period of time where it was ice. That's my belief. That is a belief. It's a belief. It's my opinion. It's done that way because I've studied things enough to make me think that's the way that it occurred. I have no science to back it up other than that all of the evidence points to that. And you can believe what you want to believe. You can believe science or you can believe evidence. I believe evidence. Faith is the substance of things you hope for, but it's evidence of things you cannot see. Amy says there are petrified trees that are standing between two strata of coal deposits that are supposedly millions of years apart. Evidence of the Great Flood. Well, that's called a polystrate formation. That's what that's called. And the reason they call it polystrate is because it's between strata, right? So either the tree stood there for millions of years while the layers accumulated around it, or layers happened instantly and it was not millions of years. So there's many of those. There's a couple of formations here in the United States. In Tennessee, there's a place, Green something or other. I can't remember the place. But there's a few places where you find trees in fossil form standing straight up through the strata, which is just proof that the layers of the earth are not millions of years old. The Grand Canyon is an example of that. You can see all the layers in the Grand Canyon. And then people said for millions of years it took that thing to form, and that the Colorado River is what cut it out. Well, here's the thing that they don't tell you, that both ends of the Grand Canyon are higher than the middle, and water does not run uphill. So that's wrong. And also, at either end, there's no delta, which means it was a complete washout it didn't happen over time that would cause a delta. That's where the water came over the rocks in Canada and flowed down to the ocean. That's where that, if you look at the land around it, you can see where the water would have went. It's right through the Midwest, and it looks just like a channel of water. That Midwest is the delta. Anyway, they didn't believe that was true until Mount St. Helens blew. And when Mount St. Helens blew, a very peculiar thing happened overnight. It blew in the night, or in the evening, and then during the night, it carved a channel that looks just like the Grand Canyon, only smaller, but it happened in about 15 hours. It's a smaller version of the Grand Canyon, but it's deep enough to prove that it don't take millions of years to carve a channel like that. It happened in about 15 hours. So there's that. So there's two proofs that that's not correct the way that they illustrated in science books. April says, we are all blessed by God, amen. I agree. Amy says, there is an ice age. It's a Pixar movie. Haha, nice. A squirrel trying to get a nut. Very apropos. Debbie says, cow farts will cause the next ice age. So they say. Yet I've never smelled a cow fart, have you? I would think that if something was going to change the climate of the planet I lived on, I would at least smell it. Interesting. Amanda says, star farts will change the climate. Right on. Where is Aaron tonight? Aaron, are you out there? Amy says, Debbie, cows are vegan. Therefore, when I eat beef, I'm actually eating grass. And saving the planet, apparently. Isn't it funny that the same people that say cow farts are causing climate or global warming, those are the same people that tell you don't eat beef? You'd think that would be in their interest, wouldn't you? Please eat all the cows so we don't have climate change. Fab Daddy says, China's Gobi Desert is poor agricultural development. I don't disagree with that. I don't know what you're talking about, though, but sure. Why not? Batshit Crazy says, what's up? What's up, Batshit Crazy? Nice to see you. It was fertile once. Yeah, so was the Sahara Desert. You know, the pyramids, when they were built, they were lush green world where they were in a river right beside them. The Nile River was right beside the pyramids at one time. So, yeah, you know what caused the Sahara Desert to happen? Yeah, that's what she said, says Fab Daddy. I was fertile once, right? Yeah, the Sahara Desert was once lush and green, and now it's a desert full of sand. Sand which came from somewhere. Do you know how it got there? By the way, sand and dirt are not the same thing. Amanda says, hi, batshit crazy. Amy says, Indiana has lots of forests. We don't have that many forest fires because we take care of the underbrush and have forest management. Right. And so do we. And that's why. Because if we didn't take care of it, of course it would be rife for forest fires. April says, educate yourselves. And the flood was 500 years ago. The flood was 4,500 years ago. Amy says, exactly, April. I agree. And Rich S says, you tell him, sister. Amy says, rake the underbrush. Damn typos. Right on. April says, Amy, good to see you, love. Batshit says, several ice ages, more on the way. Natural. Well, they only know of one, and they hypothesize other ones, but they've never seen any proof of them. And I personally don't think it'll happen again because it's not going to flood again, which were the conditions that caused it in the first place, in my opinion. It's not science, that's my opinion. You can choose to believe it or not. I seem to be a pretty smart guy. You might want to believe me. If you don't, that's fine. Amy Elizabeth says, hi, April. And April says, batshit crazy. Good to see you, love. Amy says, whenever the news shows the ice falling into the sea, what they don't show you is the new ice forming on the other side. And also that happens all the time. It's not rare. Ice accumulates until it gets heavy. If you live in the South and it snows, you'll see this phenomenon happen once in a while, and sometimes they even get it on camera. When you walk outside and slam the door and then all the snow on your roof slides down on top of you. You ever seen that happen? That's exactly what's happening down there. The ice accumulates until it gets heavy, and then it breaks off and falls into the water. Now, if you take just a picture of that and nothing else around it, it looks devastating. Oh, my God, the ice is melting at an alarming rate, but it's not. That's how ice functions. That's what makes icebergs. So, they're lying to you. Anytime you catch them finagling images to make you think a thing, like the poor polar bears. Look at this little polar bear on the ice all by itself. They're almost extinct. We should do something. Send money to so-and-so so we can save the polar bears. Number one, that polar bear will eat you and not think twice about it. You are food to it. It does not see you as a human being. It will eat you. Number two, they're doing just fine. There's no shortage of polar bears. If you don't believe that, go there and walk around by yourself for a little while and see what happens. Number three, don't believe people that try to manipulate you into giving them money. Believe people that ask you outright to hit that CashApp $JakeJohnsonband and... Yes. Don't believe people that'll promise you things. Batshit Crazy says, hey, folks. What's up, Bat? April says, right, Amy. And Amy says, fun fact. Uh-oh. I love fun facts. Whale penises can be up to 10 feet long. Beluga. I don't want to know how you know that or how you decided that was a fun fact. Amy Elizabeth says everything is bullshit. Amen, sister. April says, ha 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 ha. Smiley faces and wavy hands. Or turkeys, one or the other. Batshit Crazy says, just had a commercial. Hell yeah. Thank you, sir. I got to make money somehow. April says, funny, Amy. Richie says, Amy Elizabeth, really? Really? I do know that I've seen a couple of walking sticks that were made out of whale penises. And apparently they're collectible in some areas. Don't want to know why people collect whale penises, but they do. I suppose it's better than bottle caps. April says, much love, Amy. Thumbs up, smiley face, and hearts. And Rich S says, how is that a fun fact, by the way? Well, you know what you can do with a penis? Batshit Crazy says, everything is bullshit. Yeah. Or maybe bats shit on smiley faces until they really turn blue. I guess that's what I mean. April says, Rich 𝕂𝕚𝕝𝕝 and in Cincinnati, KRP in Cincinnati. Yes. April says, LOL. Amy says, fun for the lady whale. Amy says, I swear to God, I thought turkeys could fly. Turkeys cannot fly, and neither can chickens. They can flap, and they can go up, but they can't fly. They can fly higher than you can, but they can't fly. April says, 𝕂𝕚𝕝, good answer. Fab Daddy says, I hope everyone has a great Friday night. It's difficult to answer questions when you're 10 minutes behind, so you're doing good, Jake 2 and 5. Fingers zipped. Well, Fab Daddy, thank you, sir. I appreciate you very much, and thank you for asking the questions. Thank you for entertaining the answers, and thank you for having thoughts. That's what I'm after. I don't care what you conclude. I just want you thinking. That's what I'm after. So God bless you, and have a good night, and we'll see you next time. And I don't mind being 10 minutes behind. I'm quite used to it. You just ask the question and then sit back and enjoy the ride. That's how it works. Can't be in an engaging conversation, but you can ask questions and posit theories and say statements and then sit back and enjoy the show as I get to it. April says, Amy, they can fly. No, they can't. And Amanda says, night fab. And Amy says, not domestic turkeys. The wild ones can't fly either. They can hop for a long distance, but they can't fly. You never seen a row of turkeys flying across the sky. They walk. April says, Kevin says he's seen a turkey fly. I don't know. He's seen a turkey fly upwards into a tree or downwards from a tree. But they don't fly. Amy says, definitely not domesticated turkeys dropped from a helicopter. They can flap, but they can't take flight. They're too big to take flight. Rich S says, what is wrong with this girl? What girl? Which one? April says, that's a scary thought. Right on. Amy says, wild turkeys can fly. The ones on a farm are bred to be too fat to fly. They flutter for a short distance. I'm pretty sure the wild ones do too. I don't think they can fly. They may can. I don't know. I might be wrong. I'm not a turkey expert, but I'm pretty sure they don't fly because they're big. Big birds don't fly. They can flap, and they can fly for a short period. But like birds fly, they don't do that. I'm pretty sure. I might be wrong. Amanda says, LOL, Rich. She's silly. Amy says, Rich, it's a scene from the show WKRP in Cincinnati. They dropped turkeys from a helicopter. The boss said, I swear to God, I thought turkeys could fly. That's hilarious. April says, I thought it was before the flood and dinosaur days. Well, dinosaur days and people days are the same days. So that's the problem with science. They get such a dissonance between people's brains, and you start visualizing the world in the way that they've sold it, and it's hard to put the pieces together. But if you just think logically, use Occam's razor, which means if you remove everything that it couldn't be, and you eliminate everything that it could be, whatever's left, regardless of how improbable, must be the truth. That's Occam's razor. The easiest answer usually is the right one. The first one was Spock. The second one was Occam. Anyway, dinosaurs did roam the world, and we have evidence of it. And for eons, they were not. You see, the word dinosaur was coined in the 1800s. I think it was 1802 or somewhere in that area. Before that, they were called dragons, and a plethora of other words such as Leviathan and Behemoth, which is not a translation. That's the word they used, and it's the word that's in the Bible. That's what they called it, Behemoth. So, and wyvern and lots of other words. Anyway, people have always existed with dinosaurs. Go watch Hyperbole, episode 5 or 6, one of those, and I cover people and dinosaurs, and I give you evidence that that is exactly true. Rich says, got it. An old person's TV show, right? Yes. Very old person. Like 70s mustache person. And Amy says, Rich, okay, Zoomer. Just kidding. Rich says, it was in the 70s, right? Yes. Lonnie Anderson, though. Hubba bubba. Hubba hubba. Yes, Lonnie Anderson was gorgeous. Also, Sally Fields. for a short period of time, the perfect woman. In every way. Yes, that way. Amy says, wishing everyone a safe holiday weekend. Remember to be safe and a designated and sober driver. Designate a sober driver. Yes. Friends don't let friends drink and drive. They might spill some. Amy says, doing my security walk at work, and then I'm on a 3-day weekend. Nice. That's always nice, right? Get you a little vacation, a little rest. Unfortunately, I got a busy weekend ahead of me. Rich S says, be right back. Stepping outside to smoke a cigar and find a good woman. I wish you good luck on both. If I'd have known that, I'd have prepared a cigar to smoke with you, but I didn't think about it. DJ John says, these protein shakes are a climate change. Are they getting to you, buddy? Are they making you expel gases? Amanda says, LOL, DJ, I bet. And Amy says, I do not understand why people want to stop climate change. It's a natural cycle of the earth. We can't stop it. Humans are too vain. I agree, 100%. DJ John says, gonna say good night, everyone. Have a blessed night. John, take care of yourself. Enjoy those shakes. Get them down. You can do it. I believe in you. Have a good night, and we'll see you next time. Love you, buddy. Amy says, good night, DJ. And Debbie says, Amy, thanks for that fun fact. That is something I never knew I needed to know. Ha ha ha. I wonder, can you use it as a surfboard if the whale is floating on its back? You could use it as a springboard. Amanda says, fun fact, a female pig can orgasm for 30 minutes. How can I go on beyond that? We need to talk about this pig. Amy says, lucky sow. Also, pigs can orgasm for 30 minutes. Lucky pig. Amanda says, right, Amy? Kevin Bernard's here. Says, hello, Jake and everyone. What's up, Kevin? Nice to see you, my friend. Amy says, I'm thinking about turkey vultures. Right on. Rich says, I'm back. 1 out of 2 ain't bad. You smoked a cigar in that time, or you found a good woman in that time? Because that was a short cigar. Amanda says, hi, Kevin. Kevin says, hello, Amanda. Amy says, big birds don't fly. Sung to the tune of Big Girls Don't Cry. Big birds, they don't fly. Big birds don't fly. Wow. That's an old person song, Rich. Kevin says, hello, Amy. Amy says, hi, Kevin. Kevin says, hello, Debbie. And hello, Rich. All right, my nose is starting to itch. Rich S says, hey, Kevin. Kevin says, is there going to be a Bible study this weekend? Yes, sir. Sunday and Monday. Linda Davis says, good night, John. Kevin says, hello, Linda. And hi, Kevin, says Linda. All right, that's it. We made it to the bottom of the chat. Switching to my tablet, says Amy. All right, I'm going to do the same thing. My tablet's in my bed, so that's where I'm going. I hope you guys had a fun time tonight. Remember, this is all nonsense. Nobody knows the answers to anything. We all are positing our intelligence onto the world and hoping we're right about something. Like throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. Listen to YouTube. They know everything. I know nothing. This is just an exercise in entertainment. If you learned anything, great, but don't tell anybody. Amanda says, woohoo, the bottom. Linda says, hi, Rich S. Rich says, it was aight. Loved it. Debbie says, 30 minutes. Aaron's here. as I'm leaving. What's up, Aaron? You got here just in time to watch me leave. Where you been? I wanted to talk to you about Tron. Amanda says, good night. See you tomorrow night at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time right here on Untethered Live for Politics. Much love, y'all. And Heller Aaron. And Aaron says, sorry I'm late. That's all right, buddy. There's always next time. Go back and watch, though. This was a good, fun episode. I think you'll enjoy a lot of what we talked about. It's good stuff. Kevin says, is there going to be a Bible study this weekend? Yes and yes. Linda says, Aaron, how's your girl? Yes, please do tell. Dish. Amanda says, yes, Debbie, 30 minutes. You can imagine I thought a minute or two was a long time. Good gracious. 30 minutes. The pig can orgasm for 30 minutes. The human head weighs 8 pounds, has nothing on that fact. Patty says, Johnny Fever and Venus Flytrap was the bomb. Thank you. Nice. Aaron says, I was a parent. My daughter had a cheer game. Oh, that's nice. How was it? Now, I'm assuming that's not a sport that you win. Amy says, I have to change my phone, so I switched to my work tablet. Right on. I have to charge my phone. Aaron says, she's great. I would love to see that. I would love to see that. Debbie says, Amanda, that must be when pleasure turns to pain. I don't know. Aaron says, I was with my son and daughter. Well, I'm glad that you had some father, son, daughter time. That's beautiful. There's no wrong in that. I always opt for family first, so you did the right thing. Amanda says, well, I'd like to try it, Debbie. So would I, although I really wouldn't. Amanda says, back to back is crazy, but 30 minutes, I just can't. Neither can I. You don't need to be having expectations like that. Calm your little self down. Debbie says, I would need a stiff one. A drink, that is. I'd say if you were orgasming for 30 minutes, you'd have a stiff one, honey. Amy says, dark chocolate, orange cream, squares. Interesting. It sounds delicious. I have some orange soda here and a Mountain Dew. I have all that here minus the chocolate, but I'm going to eat a cookie in a little while, so I'll have it all. Amanda says, well, you can try, Jake. Try to keep up. Nope. I wouldn't even attempt something like that. I wouldn't even lie to you and tell you something like that was even possible. I'm the kind of man that can start when the commercial starts in Star Trek and stop before the commercial ends in Star Trek. Patty says, it was fun. I bet. Rich S says, y'all are bananas. Senior citizens shouldn't be talking this way. Ain't no senior citizens here, Rich. Young is more like it. Kevin says, hello, Patty. And Aaron says, what's up, Patty? No pants. What's up, Patty? No pants. Amy says, I found some peppermints on clearance at the store today. Don't tell Amanda. Amanda says, oh, please, Jake, lies. Star Trek. They have 3-minute commercials. I'm good with that. My back won't hold out much longer. And Amanda says, oh, yes, Amy. And I'm getting low, too, on peppermints. Or other things. Linda says, you'd be peeling me off the ceiling, right? That's a ridiculous amount of time. I don't even want to pig that bad. Amy says, my random act of kindness while at the store, I helped an old man by carrying his groceries to the car. Thank you, Amy. Congratulations. You did a wonderful thing. That's beautiful. Thank you. I'm sure that old man needed it, and I'm sure that he was grateful. And I'm 100% sure that God saw it. Kevin says, when a pig has an orgasm, does she squeal like a pig? It'd be funny if she squealed like an elephant. Amanda says, Amy and Debbie, do you know how to tell when you had great sex? When you get up and there is a wet spot. Debbie says, only in Louisiana, Kevin. Amanda says, LOL, Kevin. Patty says, hi, guys. Amanda says, Amy, you changed your picture. Did you? Linda's got the big hair on her picture. Amy says, I'm on my work tablet, Amanda. Second account. And Aaron says, wet spot, or the sun's coming up. I say you can tell when you had great sex when your partner says, have you met Jake? Amanda says, oh, I see now, Amy. Aaron says, smiley face. That's lies, by the way. Okay, only once, but I was young and I needed the money. All right, it is 10:40, so I'm going to go to bed now. God bless you all. Thank you so much for joining us on this Friday for a foray into madness and our wonderful conversation. Amy says, I'm Amy Elizabeth 71 too. Amy Stancombe. Yes. I did not know that. Or did I? Am I confusing the two Amy's? Or is Amy 1 and 2 the same Amy? No. Amy Stancombe and Amy Elizabeth is the same person. That's what I'm saying. The other one's what? It starts with a B. Okay. All right. You had me confused there for a minute. I got it now. All right. Patty says, good night all. Kevin says, I can when the sex was great, when my knees buckled on my way to the bathroom. It's supposed to be her knees buckling on the way to the bathroom, buddy. Rich says, I'm blushing. I might go back outside, right? Might need a cigarette after that one, huh? Patty says, good night all. Kevin says, I can tell. Amanda says, good night, y'all. And Linda says, good night all. Much love to all, heart. Much love back to you. And Amy says, Amy B. Right. You just had me confused for a minute. My brain does tricks on me sometimes. I got it. Kevin says, good night, everyone. I enjoy the weekend. And Aaron says, I'm sorry again, Jake, for missing you. That's all right, buddy. Go back and watch the show. It's a pretty good one. And I'll talk to you tomorrow night. I would much rather you be being dad. Those kids need you, and I'm okay with that. Amy says, replay it, Aaron. And Debbie says, good night, all you perverts and weirdos. You got that right. Rich S says, LOL, Debbie. Aaron says, I will. And Amy says, night, Debbie, the foot fetish queen. Nice. Licking the toes, licking the toes. Spreading them wide. I'm going to stop there and get myself in trouble. And Amanda says, I was a pervert last year. This year, I'm a provert. And Linda says, good night, Debbie. All right. Good night, everybody. God bless you all. Thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, support, join, and I'll see you guys for Politics tomorrow night. Peace out, and thanks for watching.